Hi, welcome to Game Speak. I am Layman Kingsford, and today we're going to talk about my fantasy world setting called Living Empires. It is actually the precursor to both Living Metropolis, my superhero game and story setting, and Living Starship, the science fiction version. And it all begins with my Living Empires fantasy setting on a single world it's populated by elves, dwarves, humans, goblins, trolls, and ogres. The goblins, trolls, and ogres are races of people that have evolved out of sort of like a gazelle type animal. They've got reverse articulated legs and hooves for feet. Their hands only have three fingers and a thumb. Well, the humans, dwarves, and elves have evolved out of primates, much like humans on our world. And they've got four fingers and a thumb, and what we consider irregular, the forward articulated knees and regular five-toed feet. Um, in this world, what segregates or people and has built all the cultures and religions and societies, everything is built around this notion of every living thing, be it person, plant, or animal, is marked with one of eight signs of flame, wind, tree, bone, tone, as in sound, uh, stone, and star. I feel like I'm forgetting one. There'll be a graphic here. Uh, but everything that's alive is marked with one of these signs, and they all believe that there's a particular god, sort of totem spirit-like entity that blesses every single creature. So, it's like the flame sign totem, flame sign god, if you will, uh, marks these plants as being flame sign and these people as being flame sign and these animals as being flame sign. The flame sign people can eat those plants and animals, use them as food source for ultimate nutrition. But in this circular relationship, the further away on the circle a sign is away from your own, a person's own sign. So, like if you, again, using the flame person as an example, the further away on the circle, uh, the more detrimental those food sources are to yourself. So the opposite of flame sign is wind. So flame sign people, whether they're goblins or elves or trolls or humans, flame sign people have much more in common with each other, socially, religiously, culturally, than they would with other signs, particularly wind sign, which is their opposite. So a lot of cultural antagonism, be it wars or whatnot, are created by this antipathy between the signs, because flame sign and a wind sign person actually feel something akin to a repulsion to each other. It may not be so um, overt as in the minute you near a wind sign person, you want to, but you definitely, it's sort of like when I liken it to when you take magnets and put the reverse poles to each other and try to force them together. You get that point of, that resistance gets stronger and stronger and stronger until they just sort of repel each other. That's sort of what it's like. And so for a flame sign person in this world, uh, wind sign food, they're at the very least like deeply allergic to it, if not, somewhat poisoned by it. Um, they can eat food that's of a sign that's close to theirs. So, like for flame sign, star, and tree sign, still get like, let's call it 85, 75, 80% nutrition from those. Wave and tone signs, they believe they get you roughly 50% nutrition from. So you can see there's already alignments built in, or potential alliances and alignments between cultures that are more related to each other than they are opposite each other on this believed circle of signs. In this world, roughly once a generation, there's almost always been a person born that's marked with two signs. So they believe these are some ultimate holy people. They tend to exhibit extreme magic powers because there's magic attached to each of these different signs. So flame sign magic, it's all about heat and fire, and also the opposite of that because they can remove heat and freeze things. So because cold isn't actually a waveform, a form of energy. It's an absence of heat, much like darkness isn't a form of energy or anything. It's an absence of light. Uh, so anyway, roughly once a generation, a person is born marked with two signs, and they're hailed as usually as a great savior, a scion of the planet, and are treated with great respect. And often you have different factions, political factions and religious factions, fight over who gets to sort of control them or utilize them or get their help. And they tend to be extremely powerful with magic, but sometimes they also go a little crazy. So their magic can sometimes run loose and rampant and like shatter continents and do world changing things. But then other times these people are some of the most benevolent people that live, that have lived throughout history and have brought great peace and discovery and knowledge to the world. So the stories in Living Empire are going to revolve around that, because at the opening of what will be the game setting and novel setting, uh, for the first time in living history, there's more than one person in the world that is marked with two signs. So some people believe it's going to be like this Armageddon scenario where there's more than one sign. The gods are finally going to appear and bring war to the planet through these powerful scions. Um, but it's going to be this earth-shattering thing that you, as the players and readers, will get to experience, and your own, because it'll again be a legacy-style game, will get to form your own sort of version and evolution of what happens with these stories and these characters. Um, so that's sort of a little bit about Living Empires, and the reason I'm talking about this today is we've got a project through another organization I work with that might be bringing to life a story in a format that I never ever thought I would dive into participating in. I can't say more about it yet, still in the formation stage, but it's going to be utilizing my Living Empire setting and these signs in particular. And what I want to show you here is what this is sort of reinvigorating a lot of my focus for the games and stuff going along with it. I have in the past created what I call 7-sign circle, even though there's 8 signs. I liked the asymmetry of a 7-pointed star, but I've developed a number of different sorts of games based off of this. Even printed up a whole deck, because in this world there's sort of like a tarot deck, much like the signs are somewhat analogous to our own sort of zodiac signs. They've also got a deck of cards based on these signs. Ooh, I'm giving away some secret stuff here. This set of deck of cards, much like our own tarot cards, where each of the signs have their own suit, and within each suit there's a sovereign and a building and an activity and a celebration, and a landform, all associated with each of these signs. And they believe, some people in the world believe that they have oracular properties and they use them to read their future and past. Others believe they actually have magical properties themselves, or can, so that's how it plays in that. But I've developed all sorts of games based off of this deck of cards, even one sort of a legacy version where you'll have a character, this little character wheel, and then the constant relationships of the signs are changing as new information is developed, and you have a whole deck of cards and you'll be placing stickers on it. So your own version of this sort of tarot style deck will be labeled very differently than somebody else's. Still have the same number of cards, still have the same number of suits and the same signs, but maybe the flame sign sovereign is a queen in one person's deck, but in somebody else's deck they went and labeled that with the Empress sticker. So everybody would have a little bit of a customized tarot deck too. So those are some of the things we've got going along with it. So the 7-sign circle, I've also been coming up with a whole bunch of different games that utilize the same cards, the same tokens, and a fluctuating relationship between 7 signs. There's always one 8th sign that is out or is not active live in a game or something. But it's really kind of fun, I think, being able to, just much like our own deck of normal playing cards, 4 suits, the spades, clubs, diamonds, and hearts. uh, there's hundreds of different games that can be played with that single set of the single deck of cards. That's sort of my idea with this also. This single deck of cards can play all sorts of different sorts of games, some of which maybe even just more or less could even replicate what our deck of cards do, so poker-like games. But the real thing that ties them all together is this relationship of 7 of the signs to each other, and they can fluctuate, they can change, which cards get played. All sorts of different permutations and variations are available through that. But that's just a little glimpse this week into Living Empires, which is the precursor to and the founding stone of my whole Living Saga setup. Something I've been working on in this form for 15, maybe close to 20 years. But there are elements in particular of, because I'm been a lifelong fantasy nerd. Read Lord of the Rings in 4th grade, but there are little bits of elements, a couple of character names and character concepts that have existed since I was like in 6th grade maybe, that I've just kept and carried and reused in each different iteration of these stories and games as I've developed them over. As I said, in that case, there's tiny little nuggets of stuff in here that have been in usage in my brain for like 40 years. But this whole Living Saga stuff has actively been in development for maybe 10 years. Living Empires stuff, I was originally doing as like a whole role-playing game setting, and that was like 20 years ago. So the elements of this have been fluctuating around and popping up now again in my productions for a long time. And it's just really exciting and satisfying now to see weaving it all together, working with these different artists who are bringing so much of my concepts to visual life, and actual playable games are emerging from this. And it's just super exciting. So that's a little bit about Living Empires. Again, we'll be adding Living Empires section to our Cheeky Dingo website. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, keep an eye on our website, cheekydingo.com, and so you can keep up to date on all the things developing around Living Empires, Living Metropolis, Living Starship, and all the other projects I've got going on. And just keep yourself informed. So whether you're rolling dice, drawing cards, or moving meeples, just keep gaming, and I will chat with you next week. Ciao.